Federal immigration enforcement operations across Minnesota have become the center of a nationwide debate following the fatal shooting of 37-year-old Renee Nicole Good by a U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement agent during a federal operation in Minneapolis. The incident has intensified scrutiny of immigration enforcement practices, the scale of the federal presence in the state, and the balance between public safety and civil liberties. According to the Department of Homeland Security, the shooting occurred during a targeted enforcement action involving multiple federal agencies. Authorities said officers attempted to stop a vehicle believed to be connected to an ongoing investigation. During the encounter, an ICE agent discharged a firearm, fatally wounding Good. Federal officials stated the agent believed the vehicle posed an immediate threat, though that account is being reviewed as part of an ongoing investigation. Local officials in Minneapolis and the state of Minnesota quickly called for transparency. The Minneapolis Police Department confirmed its officers were not involved in the shooting, and that federal authorities are leading the investigation. Minnesota Governor Tim Walz and Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey both urged the federal government to release all available evidence, including body camera footage and internal reports, to clarify the circumstances surrounding the incident. The shooting occurred amid what Homeland Security officials describe as the largest immigration enforcement deployment in Minnesota history. Roughly 2,000 federal agents from ICE, Border Patrol, the FBI, and other agencies were dispatched to the Minneapolis-St. Paul region to carry out arrests tied to immigration violations and criminal warrants. Federal officials said the surge was necessary to address what they called increased activity by transnational criminal networks. In the days following the shooting, protests spread rapidly throughout Minneapolis and neighboring cities. Demonstrators gathered outside federal buildings, city hall, and community centers, holding signs demanding accountability and calling for an end to large-scale immigration raids. Many protesters emphasized concerns about the presence of heavily armed federal agents in residential neighborhoods and questioned whether enforcement operations were being conducted safely. While protests in Minnesota were largely peaceful, several resulted in road closures and minor clashes between demonstrators and law enforcement. Similar rallies were reported in Chicago, New York, Los Angeles, and Philadelphia, reflecting growing national attention to the case. At the state level, Minnesota's Attorney General announced plans to seek independent review of the shooting. State leaders argued that federal authorities had limited the ability of local officials to fully participate in the investigation, raising questions about jurisdiction and oversight when federal agents are involved in fatal incidents. Inside Washington, the incident quickly reached Capitol Hill. Lawmakers from both parties requested briefings from the Department of Homeland Security. Some members of Congress called for congressional hearings to review ICE's use of force policies and the structure of large-scale enforcement operations. Others defended the administration's actions, stating that federal agents must be allowed to perform their duties without political interference. Within the Justice Department, reports emerged that several federal prosecutors had resigned from senior positions, citing disagreements over how the case was being handled. Although the department did not confirm the reasons for the departures, officials said internal reviews were ongoing. Meanwhile, Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem reaffirmed support for the agent involved, stating that preliminary evidence suggested the officer acted in self-defense. She emphasized that federal agents often operate in unpredictable conditions and must make split-second decisions. However, she also said the department would cooperate fully with all investigations. For the family of Renee Good, the focus has been on seeking clarity. Family members released a statement describing her as a devoted mother and community member, asking that the investigation be conducted transparently and without bias. Community leaders across Minneapolis say the situation has strained trust between residents and law enforcement. Local advocacy organizations have renewed calls for formal limits on cooperation between city police departments and federal immigration authorities, arguing that large-scale operations can disrupt neighborhoods and create fear among residents regardless of immigration status. The broader immigration enforcement surge remains ongoing. Federal officials report that hundreds of individuals have been detained during the Minnesota operation, with charges ranging from immigration violations to alleged links with organized crime. DHS has defended the operation as a public safety initiative, stating that the majority of targets had outstanding warrants or prior criminal convictions. As the investigation into Renee Good's death continues, Minnesota finds itself at the center of a national conversation about immigration policy, the role of federal law enforcement, and the responsibilities that come with expanded enforcement authority. State and federal officials have pledged updates as more information becomes available, while communities across the country watch closely for developments in a case that has come to symbolize the broader challenges surrounding immigration enforcement in the United States.